Hello and welcome to this tutorial on using CgFX shaders in Maya. The CgFX shader is a way to create material effects that you can write in a special programming language called CgFX that you can apply directly to materials and have those materials display in your viewport. And the best part about using CgFX shaders is that because you're writing the entire code yourself, you don't need to rely on a shader network. You can do everything in a single file and it'll be fast, and you can do some really neat effects. One really interesting effect you can do with CgFX is you can do compositing directly in the viewport, which is something that most materials don't give you control over. So to give you sort of an example here, I'm going to start by creating a sphere, and I'm going to press 6 to go into display mode. Now I'm going to create a new material for it. I'm going to open up my materials window and click on CgFX shader to create a new shader, and that is and next I'm going to load a special material into it. I'm going to call soft light, and you can see it has that nice little glow effect in there, and I'm going to take that and assign it to my object, and you see how it immediately sort of disappeared. Now the geometry is still there, it just looks like it has this soft little glow on the inside. Now this is actually a special effect, because unlike normal materials which just color the geometry, what this is doing is it's compositing it with other objects in the background. So for example, if I were to create a cylinder there and move it out of the way, you can see that that soft light effect is adding its color to the object behind it. Now note this is not a transparency effect. If it was a transparency effect, it would be partially blocking what was behind it, but this is actually adding to it. And you can sort of, if I create another sphere, it might make it a little bit better of an idea. So I'm going to assign the same material to that one. Now look what happens when I put these over top of each other. So you get that, they don't block each other, they add one on top of the other. And this is sort of the effect that, let's actually move that cylinder back into the line of fire so you can see them all together. Oops. And this is sort of the neat effect that you can get, that you would want a light beam or something that emits a light to do. And this is something that's not easy to do with just plain old materials. And to sort of give you this is adjustable, so I've just clicked on the node to bring up its properties in the attribute editor, and you can go down and you can alter the color. So you might want to give those a nice sort of yellow light. If you wanted them to maybe look sunny, or maybe if you want to have sort of an eerie effect, you could sort of make them sort of a cold blue color. And you can get all sorts of neat ghostly effects that way. Now it's not just useful for spheres though. I'm going to open another file that I created. I'm not going to save that. So you can use this same sort of effect on more complicated geometry, sort of like this hand here. So if you want to sort of make a ghostly hand, you can assign that material to it, and all of a sudden you have this weird see-through transparent hand. And you can look at those fingers there. You see when they overlap each other, they sort of combine their colors, and sort of a weird sort of lightish effect. But in order to really see the big picture, I'm going to bring in an even bigger scene. So here you have a nice little forest with some lampposts in it. I'm going to bring up the materials window again, and you can see I can just select that material and assign it directly to that geometry there, and all of a sudden it becomes a light beam. You can see that these light beams, they add one on top of the other, and they provide a very nice halo effect, sort of like if those lights were shining through dust, or there was a fog in the air, and it can be a really nice effect. And this is something that would be a lot harder to achieve unless you had a really complicated shading network. But with CgFX you can do it in just a single file. There's no shading network involved, just some programming code. So that is my tutorial on using CgFX, and this sort of starting point. One more thing to demonstrate. You can also adjust sort of the alpha here. I've added it so that you can make the lights dimmer or brighter. There's also something called the fall off, which is sort of the sharpness of the light. So as the fall off goes off, that becomes a narrower beam. If you make that fall off bigger, it becomes so big it becomes opaque. It fills the whole volume. So you might want to narrow that down to make that a nice little thin beam there. Make it faded off so that it looks a little bit more realistic, and there you have it. A forest full of light beams that are not blocking each other but adding their light to the scene behind it.